on, girl, let's scream.
I am a god.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. This is the part where you run.
Come on, scream.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Scream, a podcast where we dive into our favorite horror movies. I'm Parker.
And I'm Stevie.
And today we're looking at 1959's The Tingler, directed by William Castle.
Join us as we journey to the science lab and learn all about the Tingler.
Girl, are you ready to scream?
Come on, girl. Let's scream.
Okay, well, today we are joined by a very special guest. Someone who I have wanted on the podcast for a long time. I honestly can't think of a better person to be on a movie podcast.
Yeah.
Like, you are probably the most qualified guest that we've had. This is Vanity Rex, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up
Hello.
for Vanity Rex.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on here.
We love you, Vanity.
We love you. Yeah. If you don't know who Vanity is in the, local indie drag scene, Vanity is our absolute favorite drag performer and a friend of ours for a really long time. And Vanity also hosts events like their movie commentaries at Can Cinemas downtown and Shit Show, which is probably my favorite drag show that you can go see in the city right now.
It's something you would call alternative, but really it's just stupid.
It's so fun.
It's
I was
iconic.
in one of the shit shows. I was in Night of 1,000 Vanities.
Vanities, where we did vanity numbers. Yeah.
Yes, and I was very proud of mine.
Yours was great.
Yours was so good, yeah. You did the you did the tribute to Shelley Duvall. Yeah.
Because that is my favorite number of yours is Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall. But I also, a new one that you did, well, the one that I've seen very recently was the Reba. I know what I like. I like Fritos.
I know what I like. I like Fritos.
That one was,
And then you're just passing out
that
the
one in real
Fritos.
time. Which I think that was the same show that Ryan did the 9/11 mix.
I think so, yeah.
Oh my god. That was I think that's my favorite Ryan number too. Shout out Rhinestone. She won't listen to this.
She will not listen to this. She does not like scary
She
movies.
hates scary movies.
So she will never be on this podcast.
Watch, Scary Godmother.
Scary That would be so funny.
She would. We also have other plans. Maybe she would do.
Yeah, well, we're starting. Should we announce it now? We're starting another podcast. I mean, we've kind of already hinted at it, but we're gonna have a spin-off series of this show. It's gonna be called Moments of Clarity, and it'll be more traditional.
It's all about foxes and Zed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can do that. I still listen to foxes, so I can be on that podcast.
Why are you my clarity? Yeah, but I think that we could have Ryan on that. Because that'll be a more traditional, we'll just be talking about different topics.
Yeah. But
anyways, welcome Vanity. Thank you for coming on the show.
And
so you picked...
I picked The Tingler.
The Tingler, which is the movie we're covering this week. I'm so glad you picked it, because when I knew that you would pick some shit, you know what I mean? Knowing you.
Which is why we really wanted you on the podcast, because Vanity has such a vast movie knowledge. You watch so many fucking movies.
So many.
Vanity probably thinks this movie's a masterpiece, but I know you don't like The Godfather.
I definitely like this movie more than Godfather.
See, that's Vanity. And every time I see that meme where it's a letterbox and it's the review of Godfather, it's meh, and then something else, and they're whoa. I was that's Vanity. It doesn't matter what movie it's next to. I'm that's Vanity to me.
It's so true, yeah. And I'm glad you picked this too, because we hadn't talked about William Castle. We hadn't talked about Vincent Price. And I feel like that's such an important, they left such a legacy on the history of horror and their gimmicks and shit that they would do.
Absolutely.
So I was perfect. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah. Was there any reason you picked this one?
Well, because I also when it comes to horror, I went through everything you guys have already covered, and you guys have gone around, but you not as much as the earlier stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
it's true.
And
the earliest we've done, because I wanted to remember has been Bride of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
It's the oldest, but
Classic.
we haven't done anything from the 50s or the 40s. Yeah.
And so I was like, I like to focus on older stuff because I feel like we as a culture right now are just like not as interested in old things.
Yes.
For whatever reason. And
No, absolutely. You've always had an old soul. That's like one of the things that I've always loved about you.
Oh, thanks. That's because I had a lot of trauma as a child.
That tracks.
Character building.
That tracks.
But no, so William Castle and definitely Vincent. Vincent Price is one of my favorite performers of all time. Then you can just, like, when we go through this movie, I can like exactly say why he's like one of the best, because the things he says in this movie are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And any other actor would like try to be too cute about it, but he says it so straight that you're just like, I kind of believe this shit.
and like his voice. His voice is very important to it.
And yeah, but yeah, William Castle, like, I'm a huge John Waters fan, and John Waters has always talked about how much William Castle influenced him. And so when I went to go into William Castle films, I'm like, oh, this is like the exact kind of nonsense I love.
Yeah.
It is
Oh, I
such
knew, like,
nonsense.
going into it, I was like, there's going to be some fucking nonsense in this movie. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, this was a fun one.
We can go through and say like.
And then,
how we
like, when I
feel about it.
researched and learned, like, this was one of the gimmick films, and to see the gimmick they did for this, to promote it, it's like, it's crazy what they had to try to do to get people to go to the movies back
Yeah.
I saw this movie for the first time, like, I think I looked on Letterboxd, it was like 8 years ago. So I've kind of known about it at this point, because John Waters talks about this movie specifically in one of his books, and he has, like, someone gifted him the instruction manuals to, like, the theater seats that they put, like, vibrators under.
That's wild. That's how. I mean, that's how it was. back
Yeah,
in the
but I'm
day.
like, could you imagine being the movie theater employee that had to install those things?
No, I think about that with these gimmicks sometimes, because I listened to a Dead Meat podcast a long time ago, which was Dead Meat is a huge inspiration for this podcast. And they've covered all of the gimmick shit. I remember they did an episode talking about it. And there was like skeletons falling from the ceilings.
Yeah, it was
and,
House on Haunted Hill was that one.
Yeah.
right. And didn't they have like actors at some point?
Yeah, so for the Tingler, they have the moment where, like, in the movie theater where someone faints, they had someone faint in the theater, and like an actor, and then had actor, policeman, like, or someone like carry her out.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. But yeah, I can't imagine what it'd be like to work in that theater.
One of my favorites is 13 Ghosts, which was, remade into the...
I know the
early
remake, yeah.
So basically, the concept in the remake, you put on those glasses, you can see the ghost. That was the gimmick. Was you would put on these glasses in the movie, and that's how you saw the ghosts in the movie.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, though.
Bring it back. I don't know. I know, like, it wouldn't... I don't know if it would work with modern day audiences, but I just love that concept.
I love a gimmick, though.
The whimsy of a gimmick.
Remember 3D? That's what we grew up with. Everything being 3D.
I don't like 3D.
I don't
Yeah,
like
I
3D
mean,
either.
like, some of them, like, you watch and there's, like, that was clearly a moment that was supposed to be 3D.
Yeah.
Whoa!
And I don't know why, but I feel like 3D has gotten so much worse. I don't know what
You
it
think
is.
so?
Well, I think it's because they just put every movie in 3D now. And
Sure.
some movies just don't have shots or moments that require 3D.
I saw The Lion King in 3D, and I was like, why did we do this? This is weird.
Why did we do any part of that at all?
No.
You're talking about like the live action
No.
CGI.
Like, they went... It was like the 30th anniversary, maybe.
Oh,
they,
yeah,
like,
you released it in
the-
3D.
They re-
animated one?
Yeah, the animated one. It was like some Disney did for like a hot minute before, like, it was like that one, Beauty and the... Like, Lion King 3D
They're
re-release.
like, let's try and milk these films for as much
Basically.
as we
No,
can.
literally.
And then
yeah.
that one made a lot of money when they re-released it. And then they did Beauty and the Beast, and that one didn't make as much money. And then they were like, I think we're done.
Fair, yeah. Then they started doing the live action.
Yep.
Parker predicted that Snow White's going to flop so hard they're going to stop doing live actions.
I don't think that's true. I think they're invested in doing them. I think it's all like money laundering in the sense that they purposely put out these movies that look like shit just so people will go back to the originals and be like, this is great. This is what the movie is supposed to be. Just so that their brand can keep on going.
I mean, I could see that for sure.
It's a
That-
conspiracy that I'm actually
that I'm
interested
actually interested. Yeah.
Wait, you said that and I'm like, my god, you're right.
You're so smart. No,
Like,
literally.
Because there has not been one that's better.
No.
No.
There's been, like, okay ones. But not one that I'm like...
Little
yeah.
Mermaid was okay, but too long.
I didn't like Little Mermaid.
I thought Cruella was fun.
I didn't see Cruella.
No.
I don't really
I'm an Emma Stone stan.
Are you an Emma Stone stan?
Yeah.
I've seen
I
clips
like
from it,
her
and it actually looks
some-
interesting. But
Like, I wouldn't tell you to go in expecting greatness, but it, like...
It's fine.
It's a Disney film.
It's a movie I call, like, a slumber party movie. I think it's a good slumber party movie.
Okay.
Don't the Dalmatians kill her mother?
That's how I
Yeah.
feel about Confessions of a Teenage... But see, you don't understand. Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen is my slumber party movie. And that's the greatest film of all... One of the greatest films of all time. So, like...
Sure, yeah.
Right.
Can't relate, you know?
Anyway, back to the Tingler. Yeah, I thought this was really wackadoodle
Yes.
vibes. And I also agree with you that I think that Vincent Price is a fucking legend. This is actually the first time I've ever watched like an actual Vincent Price movie. I always knew about him and of him. I mean, you always think of like Bill Hader playing him on SNL.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, like that, his voice and his like mustache and all that shit. But this was truly the first time that I saw him in the context of a film. And you're right, like he takes this dialogue that... If I didn't know it was made in 1959, I would say that AI wrote it or ChatGPT wrote it. But he sells it.
Write us a script about a fear scientist.
Yeah, no, and that's what this is. That's literally what this is. But I think he sells it.
Absolutely.
He matches the freak of the script
Oh yeah.
in a really fun way.
He was like someone who like started out in like supporting roles, never found himself as like the lead actor in things. He would be in like crime movies and like, I don't know. He did a little bit of everything, but once the 50s came around and he like worked with William Castle and Roger Corman, that's when he just solidified his status of like, that's our go-to horror guy. And that's just how he made his money for the rest of his life.
How involved was he in the gimmick aspect of it?
I don't think he ever was.
Well, because I just know that this is like the third in a series of 5 films that he did with William Castle.
Sure.
And this was also like the third movie to have that kind of gimmick.
No, I think the gimmicks always came later, or they
Probably with the marketing.
Marketing.
I
Like-
see.
yeah, or at least this one was like the market. It was like embedded into the film because it gets meta toward the end of it. But I don't think Vincent Price was ever part of all that. No, because William Castle would take it like kind of like a traveling show kind of thing where he would show up sometimes, or he'd like tell this theater to be doing this, and like it wouldn't, because that was like how it was in the old days anyway, was like theaters didn't like all have the same movie at the same time. It would be like, you have a print of the movie where you're showing it today, you have a print, blah blah blah, and it would like travel around. And so William Castle, for at least some of them, would travel around with them and have his thing going with it. But as far as I know, I don't think Vincent Price ever like was part of those, because he was just a busy actor.
An actor. That makes sense to me, yeah.
However, later on when he did Straight Jacket with Joan Crawford, she did make actual appearances.
No way.
Yeah, because she
Was desperate.
Yeah, she was a little desperate. I mean, she was looking for like things to do, and
Yeah.
no one's hiring her anymore.
She was desperate. After Baby Jane, she was fucking desperate. I need to watch, I think it's called Tron is her last film.
Trog.
Trog.
Not Tron. But we should do Tron at some point on this podcast.
I'm going to show Trog in this coming year.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go to the can.
I think September is when I want to show it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it crackhead?
Oh,
I've seen like the plots and
if I want to make a drinking game, but I'm afraid everyone would be blackout drunk, but it'd just be like every time Joan Crawford says Trog, take a drink. She says that word so many times. And she's like, Trog!
She was so desperate.
Yeah, and it makes me, I feel bad. Like, I know she was a shitty person in real life, and so it was kind of a comeuppance for things, but
But like,
she was still a good actress.
and she's an icon. Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
But also, I mean, I always think in Baby Jane, Parker pointed out, she's sick and wearing a full face of makeup.
She sure is.
It's like, she like, as much
she
as
didn't
she was a
adapt
great
with the
actress,
times.
she didn't really commit to the roles.
No.
No.
Not like Betty did.
No.
I think that's the biggest problem with that film is you just see Betty's just way better than her. Like,
if you want
Which is
a
ironic.
deep dive, if you want a Baby Jane deep dive, go listen to our episode on whatever happened to Baby Jane, because we get into their whole feud and everything on there too.
Yeah,
So,
Baby Jane was the first movie I showed at Can.
it's
love it.
classic.
And I have shown the Tingler at Can as well.
Did you do anything, any kind of gimmick or anything?
So, the biggest thing I did was when, the second time the screen goes black, and he's like, scream for your lives. I went through the back and went up the stairs to the back way of the theater. And I went through there where no one was noticing me, and I just started screaming at the top of my lungs.
I love that.
And enough
Of
people
course you
told
did.
me I scared them, so I was like, you know what? It worked.
It worked, yeah.
Good
It
job.
was worth it, yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, well, yeah, I'm excited to get into, like, the plot, and we can go through things along the way. Is there anything that we wanted to discuss before we jump into spoiler territory?
No. I mean, the only other thing that I'm like, I don't know how this will ever come up. I love Vincent Price. He's a bisexual icon. He was never out, but he supported his lesbian daughter, one of the first celebrity P-Flag members.
Aww.
He was a communist.
Period.
Icon.
What? Wow.
An
Wait,
icon.
what more can you want?
I know,
yeah,
he sounds
no.
like the perfect man.
Well, unless you were married to him, but that's another story.
Oh, okay.
He cheated on his wives.
Oh.
Well,
Then he sounds like the typical man.
just a regular man.
Yep.
Maybe he wanted to be with. Was he cheating on them with men?
I don't know those stories. All I know is like his daughter wrote a book about him, and she was like, "No, my dad was bisexual," but she didn't have all those details, and I don't think I've heard any stories like that. But I'm sure he was like, "Yeah, I'm gay too. It's fine."
It's okay to be gay. Just be who you are.
But in a Vincent Price, just
Be who you are. Yeah. I can't. It's very specific. I don't know
he
what
has such the best transatlantic accent.
It's kind of the quintessential transatlantic. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay, well, from this point forward, we're going to be getting into spoiler talk for The Tingler. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go watch the movie and then get back into the plot with this. Are you ready to scream, girls?
Come on, girl.
Let's scream. Oh, Benny, that's what we say. Let's scream. There you go. Yes. Okay, so The Tingler opens with William Castle, the director/producer of this movie, coming out to warn us that certain members of the audience may feel a tingling sensation at some point. And the best way to endure it is to just let out a big scream. And then we see a montage of people screaming. Ah.
No, it's not even a montage. It's just heads going through the void.
The void. Yeah, the
Yep.
infinite.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Bodiless heads.
We see Dr. Warren Chapin, who is played by, of course, Vincent Price. He's performing an autopsy following this screaming guy's execution. And he's chatting with this guy. This guy, Ollie, just walks in. He's like, hey, what are you doing?
What's going on?
And it's excuse me, who are you? He's like, oh, I'm the... And I don't know if I was confused. He says, this dead man is my wife's brother.
Yeah.
I feel like that didn't really get brought up enough later. I was expecting that to go somewhere.
No,
And it
they're
just didn't.
just enough for exposition. That's all you need.
Sure,
Why
yeah.
is this dead body here? Oh, okay.
Yeah. They start talking about the impact of fear on the body. And Warren is obsessed with death. He is studying death. He has a suspicion that there's some part of the spine. He calls it, that maybe it's called the Tingler. And that's kind of all we get so far. And I also thought this movie, the way that it presented the information was a little bit confusing and made it hard to do an outline. But it made for a very, like, fun watch, however, because it was like, oh, that's what this was.
Yeah.
Like, it answers itself in a really weird way.
Yeah.
It's very expository just because they're like, oh, we don't have a lot of money. Just
chit-chat.
catch everyone up.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of reminds me of how, like, some found footage horror movies are.
Sure.
And I know they had a script for this, but the writing did feel kind of like they were making it up as they went along.
Well, someone did.
Someone
sure.
had to have. But I would say that it kind of makes it feel more almost natural in a way.
Yeah. I think that really set... Well, Vincent Price is probably the only, like, big actor in this film, but I think everyone does an okay job for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody makes me feel like, oh, you're hired because you're screwing some producer.
No, yeah, everyone knows the tone. Everyone knows that this is camp, I feel like. We also learned that dead guy killed 2 women. That's why he got the death sentence. Again, just, like, never gets mentioned again. He drives Ollie home to the theater because he's like, hey, can you give me a ride, doc? Like, hey, I don't know you. But we realized that he owns this theater with his wife. It only shows old silent movies. He invites the doc upstairs to his apartment for a coffee. And we meet his wife, Martha, who's a diva.
She's deaf
and
mute.
Deaf and mute. Yeah.
This actress, by the way, she was like a Broadway actress that worked with Vincent. Like, they were like co-stars in some production. So she's got like...
She's very theatrical. Yeah.
No, she's great.
She sells it with her eyes and with her eyebrows.
Yes.
They are pointed. They are arched.
Yes.
And I love them very much. I wanted to ask you, how accurate do we think the sign language was in this?
It was.
Because I was kind of looking at it. And I don't know ASL.
No, me either. But it feels like a very, like... She's learned a couple things and is kind of just, like, making up what she can just so she can communicate with her husband. Which I feel like was probably a very common thing.
Sure, yeah, okay. That makes more sense.
Which, I guess, we don't know if she's, like, been that way her whole life.
We don't. So maybe I just feel like...
So what you were going
sign language wasn't sign language.
She was doing everything.
She was SpongeBob directing traffic.
Oh my god.
like I was like...
I don't know, the husband knew what she was saying, so it was good enough.
Yeah. Oh, apparently she can, like, read lips really well.
Yeah, that
She's
was a good plot device.
Yeah, that was good. Good, yeah.
That's like every deaf person in a movie. They can read lips.
They can read lips. It's fine. Don't question it. Yeah. So...
Have you ever seen the clip from the Bratz, where... The Bratz movie? We've watched that movie.
I've seen the Bratz movie.
He's like, watch where you're going. I'm deaf. You don't sound deaf, and you don't look ignorant.
Right. Clocked.
This is the first time the Bratz movie has been brought up in conversation with the Tingler, probably.
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 Yeah. That's only on Let's Scream. That's where you'll hear that. He accidentally... Oh, and we also learned that she's a germaphobe, okay? And when he accidentally cuts his hand, she, like, faints at the sign of his blood.
My favorite thing is he's like, it's just a small cut, and there's, like, blood all over his hand.
Oh, it's like in Twilight New Moon, when she gets that paper cut, and it's, like sprinklers of blood. Yeah. And the doctor, like, kind of tends to her, because he's a doctor, and he explains that she must have to faint when she's scared because she isn't able to scream.
She can't release her fear tensions vocally.
Thank you. Sorry, yes.
I wrote that down there's, like, 2 sentences in this movie, I had to write them down when I heard them.
Because it's very, like... Okay. Her fear tensions. All right. It kind of reminds me of how fanfic is written a little bit, too.
You're right.
Yes.
Like, people trying really hard to be like, okay, this guy's a doctor. What would a doctor say?
Yeah, exactly. And he is married to a woman named Isabel. So he goes back to his house after that whole ordeal. And he interacts with Lucy, who... At first, you're like, oh, that's his wife. And then you kind of realize, oh, this is the sister of his wife. And she is dating his partner in science. Right?
That's
Like,
what we used to call it back then.
did I get it right,
Partner
though?
is- Yeah. No.
So-
Every time I watch it, I'll forget and be like, "Yo, there's this bitch of a wife," and then I'm like, "Oh wait, that's the nice sister."
Right, yeah. Because Lucy doesn't really, I mean, I guess she does factor into it later.
But also, like, Lucy's like really young, so you're just like, I don't know if that's okay.
It's Lucy, yeah. She's nice. She's got like a Julie Andrews Sound of Music little coconut head haircut. And apparently...
So the blonde one is the sister-in-law?
They're both blonde.
Yeah, what do you mean the blonde one?
Who's the first one we meet?
It's the sister.
The Julie Andrews haircut is the sister.
Okay.
We'll get to her haircut. We'll just get to it later, but that's his wife, yeah. So apparently the men spend all their time together in the lab, which I thought was quite gay and homosexual of them. Mm-hmm. And the wives feel neglected, and Lucy is all worried about Isabel. And then David, the science partner, he comes home. Do they all live together too? Like, I had several questions about.
No, it's very convenient.
Right.
I think they're polyamorous.
I think they're a polycule. It gave me very like Witches of Eastwick, because it was like this big mansion that they live in, or seemingly like this set was really cool, and it had like all kinds of crazy expensive shit in it. But it was like these two couples like living together. I was like, this is so interesting and like.
I don't
weirdly
think David
creepy.
lives there. Because he's not.
Well, what's Lucy doing?
Because he's not married to Lucy.
Right. That's right.
No, but
They're
but
dating.
they took in Lucy for whatever reason. Like, she's living with them.
Okay. I did not gather that.
Yeah, because there's like a whole thing about like Lucy. Like, Lucy's like concerned on Isabel. Isabel couldn't give two shits about her sister.
I love Isabel. So David and Lucy leave and they go out to dinner together. And that evening, Warren is waiting for his wife Isabel to get home after having a night out. And he like looks out the window and it's really late. And she's just making out with some guy. She's having an affair. I really loved this actress who plays Isabel. I thought she was very Julie Newmar. The original Catwoman vibes, just like in her speech inflection and the kind of like nuances she would do. She knows how to serve cunt.
Yes.
Patricia Cutts.
Thank
She
you
didn't
so
do
much.
a whole lot. Well, okay, in movies, she was in a soap opera.
Gotcha.
Which one?
Well, that makes sense.
Coronation Street.
I can see her very much being a soap opera girly because she was giving me drama. Her head looks like a mushroom. She's got the Gail Weathers bangs. Mushroom haircut. However, her ass is quite fat. And she does have the badonkadonk.
Sure.
So, I can't stay mad when her body's tea. I just can't stay mad when her body's tea.
And she knows it.
She knows it. So she comes home all confident. She didn't give a fuck because, like, clearly he knows that she's having this affair. She does this all the time. And they just kind of bitch each other out for a while. I loved this scene.
Absolutely.
It was just like them both like, fuck you. No, fuck you. But like in transatlantic time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She feels justified sleeping around because he isn't giving her enough attention because he's just obsessed with his experiments and his devotion to science.
Yep.
We learn that she's the one who has all the money. And she maybe killed her father to get it. Like, that's another thing. He was like, well, also, how did your father die? And it's like, oh, okay, that's maybe what's happening. And he's like blackmailing her about it. And he like pulls out a gun on her. This is when I was like, okay, I know why Vanity Rex picked this movie.
It goes from like, it's like, where did he get that?
It's
and then
screwball.
also, I do love a line because he's like, I could shoot a hole in you the size of like a medium-sized grapefruit.
Yeah, that's right.
I could
But just wait. Just wait. 'Cause remember that line. Because that's
That
pretty
was
big.
so funny. And the way he says it too, like, I could stick a hole in you the size of a medium-sized grapefruit.
And she's like kind of cool, calm, and collected somehow. The whole
Oh, she didn't give a fuck.
She's
yeah.
Like, I've heard that line.
She's like,
before.
kill me,
Like,
bitch.
so this
No,
is
you
not the
won't
first
do
time.
it.
I don't think this is her first time at gunpoint.
Yeah, no, it can't be because she's, yeah, you're right, pretty chill.
It's like, last time you said a medium-sized cantaloupe.
So, what's the truth?
What is the truth, Ellen? And he tells her that she needs to either give Lucy half of all of her money, or he's gonna shoot her and make it look like a suicide. And when she goes to run, because at this time she's starting to be like, oh no, like he's being serious, he shoots her. Bang!
No blood, no hole, no blood on her, no blood on the wall.
But you don't really see that. It's like framed
Well,
in
that's
a way.
because you think... Because later on he says it's a blank.
Exactly. Like, so he shoots
He
her.
made her think it was.
Oh.
I don't know why it works so
it's-
well.
She, like, must have fainted from the fear, right? Like,
Right.
she was like, damn, he really did shoot me.
I guess that I would do that shit too. I'm like full possum mode. Like if you
I
think
didn't
I'm
realize
right.
that. Oops,
She's-
I missed that.
No, she's, like, in shock or something. Yeah. Because he shoots her and she just kind of falls
I
off
thought it was
camera.
weird when she showed back up at the end of the movie. I was just like, wow, this movie's... She's back, I guess. Oh, that makes so much more sense. I swear I watched the movie.
Because he's faking her out. Yeah, you realize it's a whole fake out. He puts her on the lab table and he starts taking x-rays of her because she's in shock, right? She has the fear. And he needs to get x-rays of a patient who is being scared.
Yes.
And when she, like, wakes up, he's like, oh yeah, I'm fake, sorry. I needed it for my experiment. Like, gotcha, kind of.
Gotcha, bitch.
She's like, what the fuck? And the next morning he shows Dave the x-rays and we see the Tingler.
Titular Tingler.
Yes. And I couldn't really see it. I'm gonna be honest.
On the x-rays?
Yes, it kind of looked like,
Like if you don't know what you're looking for, I could see that.
yeah, I was like, what?
I could see it, though. I saw it. Like, it was on the spine, and it was like a big... Saw the whole centipede.
I didn't see it. I was like looking for it. I was like squinting, but
You didn't have your contacts yet.
I know I got new contacts today. That was it.
That was it. You have to
That
rewatch
was
the
it.
movie now, and then maybe you'll be like, oh my god, there it is.
So they discuss what they think it is, and they deduce that screaming must paralyze the Tingler somehow. I don't know where he came with that, like, deduction.
But he figured it out because plot convenience.
Because science. And
He did research. He looked for evidence.
Lady Gaga on January 6th. He tells both Lucy and David that he's trying to come up with a way to scare himself so he can try and, like, release the Tingler by not screaming. So he injects himself with acid and takes a full-on acid trip. Mm-hmm. I loved this scene.
Absolutely.
This was his best acting, I think.
Oh my
in the
god. When
movie.
he just starts screaming, the walls! The walls! The walls are closing in! This goes on for like a whole minute.
Yeah, it's great.
They really said action, and then he just like kept going. They're like, oh, we're not doing a second.
They yelled,
Oh, yeah.
they yelled and cut, but he heard serve
Con.
cleanse.
Exactly, yeah. And we don't really see the effects of the acid trip at first.
No.
And it's just like this long take of him.
Which is what makes it
going
great.
through it. Yeah, which is what makes it great, right? Because then once like he starts
And
seeing
like the whole
skeleton,
time, like Lucy and David are just like watching him.
like, what the fuck?
And they're just like commenting on it, and he's just like, it's all okay. It's all inside of his brain.
Yeah, and then they're like, should we go in and trips it? And he's like, no.
That
it
could
would
kill him.
Kill him, yeah.
Oh, and he does eventually start screaming.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he was trying not to scream.
Exactly.
But then, yeah.
He just has to. So it gives him the idea then to go and visit Miss Martha from earlier because she's not going to scream and maybe he can try and scare her, da da da. He goes to the theater and Ollie tells him that Martha has been trouble sleeping since her like little incident earlier when she fainted. So he goes up and he's like giving her like a little checkup and seeing what's wrong with her. And he prescribes her with sleeping pills and he gives her like a shot to knock her out so she can rest for a while. And then he goes and he's talking to Ollie, and he sends him to go pick up her prescription.
And he's like, do I have time to get a beer?
Yeah, literally. He's like, well...
I love that's
I'll
a
get
little,
drinks.
foreshadowing of how much he cares about his wife.
Right, yeah. We'll definitely get into that, because that was really funny. So, when Martha wakes up, she is jump scared by someone in a mask holding a knife.
Yes.
And it's a very interesting sequence because, like, the windows shut on themselves and, like, the door gets stuck on itself. And, like, it's almost like ghost shit is happening. Mm-hmm. But we don't really know what's going on. Mm-hmm. We're also, like, maybe... I was thinking she was drugged with the same acid that Warren had taken earlier. And she goes to the bathroom. And there's red blood, which, like, started... I was... a little under the influence when I watched this. So at first I was like, wait, what the fuck? Because this movie's in black and white.
Broken?
Right, no, literally. I was like,
but then the blood is actually red.
Because we forgot to mention this up top, but it is a movie filmed in black and white. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like a really cool shock to see the blood come out of her faucet.
I'm guessing, shooting in black and white back then was just cheaper.
Right.
I'm guessing they probably put something like very white in the bathtub and just colored it.
And then they colored it.
I remember learning that she has like gray makeup on to make her look like she's in black and white. They shot that scene in color film.
Oh, okay.
And they painted everything either white or grays. They did kind of like a detox season 5 reunion look. Great
the
skin.
Same trick that they use in The Wizard of Oz. When
it
she
is
opens
the same trip when it goes
Okay.
from sepia tone to color. It was shot in color film, and they just made it look black and white.
So smart.
Pretty cool, right? Yeah.
That probably is where all the budget went. Is that
And
one
exactly
scene.
that one
But it's
shot.
a good scene. So.
It's a great
Yeah.
scene, and she's
Oh my god!
freaked
Because
the
I
fuck
thought
out.
the same thing as you. I was like, oh, they colored it in post, like easy.
Do you think we could have gone back and be like, hey, you probably could have done that? Like, fuck.
It would have been
I don't
cheaper.
know.
Would have blown their minds. Yeah.
I don't know if that would have worked at all, but no.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But she also sees a bathtub filled with blood and a bloody hand coming out. And then she even sees her death certificate.
I love that
I
scene.
love
Yeah.
that too. So she passes out.
Because, like, she opens, like, the medicine cabinet, and the inside of the medicine cabinet is the death
Her
certificate.
death certificate. It has her name and like the exact time and date that this was. So we get another cunt off between Warren and Isabel. And then Ollie shows up with a passed out Martha. Like, hey, my wife's probably dying. Can you do anything about it? And Warren inspects her in his lab and like declares her as dead. He's like, no, this bitch is dead. And Ollie's super chill about it. His reaction is not what it should be. He's like, oh, well, that's unfortunate, or some shit like that. And they place this drape over her body, and then they're like, have their heads turned from her. She sits up under the drape. And then she lies back down, and they're like, what the hell? And they remove the drape, and he checks again. She's definitely still dead. So he inspects her spine and cuts it open. And this is all done in silhouette because, like, he pulled the, like, hospital curtain over her.
Yeah.
But he cuts her spine open and he pulls out the Tingler. Which
If you Google the Tingler.
just Google it.
You gotta see this little lobster centipede thing.
Cute little
Hybrid.
guy. I love the Tingler.
I love the
He's
Tingler.
a cute little sweetheart. He did nothing wrong. My favorite part is the hands. Because it's very centipede lobster kind of guy, but instead of having like little spiky little like antenna fingers, it's like chubby little like a little kid drew it with like crayon, like how little kids draw hands.
Yep.
And it's just great. And I
You could just see how rubbery it is.
very rubbery.
I don't know if it's a puppet.
That's what I was wondering.
I
Because
feel like it's just like a
A
little.
rubber like thing that they would just like off camera have it move.
But at the same time, sometimes it was like doing like little humpy motions.
it kind of curls.
So I feel like it
yeah.
had like a couple things going for it, but it was definitely not like a full
I
thing.
don't think it would be like animatronic at this point.
No, definitely
It's
not.
too early for that. Yeah, so probably like a puppet with some. I don't know. I was really like trying to figure it out. It's pretty cool, even though the design.
Maybe
is
it was just like a
kinda
lot of
derpy.
strings.
That's what I would guess, but who knows? So the Tingler attacks Warren and like latches onto his arm, and he said it feels like his arm's in a hydraulic press and shit, so it's like really strong. They're able to pull it off him and get it in this cage. And Miss Isabel enters the lab and she sneakily grabs some drugs off the lab table, and then she goes and like pours it in his drink. And then she's like buttering him up. She's like, "Oh, honey, let's just hang out. We never hang out anymore. And let me pour you a drink."
I know, like 6 hours ago, you wanted to
shot
kill
me.
me.
You literally like made me think that you killed me, but okay. And yeah, she poisons him, and he is on the phone with Ollie when the drug starts to like take over him, and Ollie's like, "Hello, are you there?" And he passes out, and so she just takes the phone and like puts it back on the hook.
Yeah.
And we get back to Ollie at his apartment. It is revealed that he was the man in the mask. And that he was the one behind the whole like weird supernatural shit.
He
going
somehow
on.
rigged the whole house to do all that shit.
Yeah. Sure. Of course.
Yeah.
Because of course he did.
I don't know. I think it's just a fun turn of like, we thought Vincent Price's character did all that, and it was just like,
Yes.
he's bad. He's not murderer bad.
Right. Exactly.
Which,
exactly.
honestly,
He'll just pretend to murder you.
as far as Vincent Price roles go, it's a turn of character for
It
him.
is. It's quite out of character. Yeah. No, I loved this reveal. I thought that was really, really fun.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because he was like so nonchalant when she died earlier. He was like, "Oh, cool, chill." So that tracks, right?
Yeah.
So at Warren's house, Isabel places the Tingler by his like passed out body on the floor. And then she opens the cage and then she dips out. Never to be seen or heard from again. And it crawls onto him and it begins to choke him out. But Lucy shows up.
And this is where this is, because he's clearly, like, making, like, a noise. And she walks in and looks and goes, like gives a look of, like, oh, this again. And then, like,
Yeah,
starts to
she
walk
was
up the stairs as in, like, I'm like,
Oh, they
bitch, what is he doing that you're like, oh, this again?
like that kinky old bitch.
Yeah!
He's into
She
choking.
was not like, oh my
He's
god,
a
it sounds
choker.
like he's, like, choking. She was like, choking himself out again.
She's like dance hall. She was like, "Okay, choker, you choked your BFF."
You choked your BFF.
And Lucy lets out a big scream, and the Tingler falls limp. It has been paralyzed.
Yes.
So Warren and David theorized that they could try and put the Tingler back onto the spine of Miss Martha, and that being back in its original place would shrink it down and cause it to like not anymore. Like, could you just
why did
not?
they just kill it?
It was the 50s, you know?
You know, they're scientists.
I guess they
know.
figured, like, since it has the strength of a hydraulic press, that they couldn't just squish it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
See, I feel like in a modern version there'd be a scene where they're like, oh, let's just kill it, and then like they try to like cut it, and like the blade would just like immediately shatter.
And that's why modern movies suck. I don't want to know.
Don't do all this lore expansion.
Right. Well, that's what Alien was famous for, was by giving it the acid blood, the xenomorph.
Sure.
That's how they got around all that plot hole, basically. Warren goes and confronts Ollie on the suspicion that he was the one who killed Martha. I don't really know how he came to that conclusion.
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Sure, yeah. Maybe it was like just the nonchalantness, I guess, of it all. And he finds all the evidence there. Like, he has a suitcase that has like the mask, the knife, all the spooky stuff in it. And while they're like kind of having a cunt off in the other room, the Tingler bursts out of its cage and starts crawling down. And it crawls through a loose floorboard and down into the theater below, which is probably my favorite sequence in the movie.
Yeah.
It scares this woman. Well, first we see, sorry, I forgot to mention, this like teenage kid like trying to like do the yawn thing where you can like try and like grab her titty. Very
Yeah.
Grease, like, "Oh, Danny, what are you doing?" You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
You could take this in this piece of tin, or whatever she says. And he keeps being like, "Sandy, I'm not doing anything." And it crawls onto her foot, and she screams. And then it crawls up into the projection booth, and it almost strangles the projectionist at one point.
Yep.
And Warren is like turning all the lights off and encouraging the audience to scream and like scaring them. And the screams paralyze it, and they're able to capture it.
Which is also like in this moment, the first time it blacks out, it's when that woman like faints, because that's when he turns off the lights and she faints, and that's in the like real movie theater. If someone was there, they would like carry her out.
That's so fun. Like put her on a stretcher.
And then
like,
the second time it goes out, it's like that's when the seats would start to buzz. That's when they would hope that people would start screaming in the theater, and then Vincent Price is telling you to scream. So that they were trying to go for like the fourth dimension.
Yeah, it was 4D. It was like kind of
Remember
a 4D
the like
vibe.
movies that would have not just like the 3D glasses, but then they'd have like the little scratch and sniff like
Smell.
thing you would do.
That was a John
Smell-o-vision.
Waters invention.
John Waters invented that?
Yeah.
I remember it from Rugrats and Wild Thornberrys movie.
See, and he got pissed because they named it Smell-o-vision like his was. And and then he realized he never like the copyright didn't go like renew.
Never went through.
And then they were like, we thought it would be a great tribute to you. And he said, a check would be a great tribute.
I fucking love him.
John Waters.
Both him and David Lynch like didn't, because we just lost David Lynch, and that's another person who like lost their movie because they didn't get the funding for it. I just think that's fucked up. We could have had a David Lynch movie.
Could have.
You know what I mean?
Well, he was working on a series with Netflix, and then Netflix was just like,
Because it's Netflix.
Yeah. Anyway, so they capture the Tingler and they take it back to Martha's body at the apartment, and they place it on her spine. Everything seems to be fine. Everything's going well. Ollie pulls a gun out on Warren because, you know, Warren knows too much. But Warren's not scared. He's sitting there like, man, I'm just going to go call the police on you.
I'm like, I've already dealt with the Tingler. Do you think I
Right,
can...
exactly.
My favorite thing is what Ollie is just like, one of us was going to kill the other one day.
Right, like it was theorized or something. And Ollie tries to flee, but all the doors lock and the windows shut again. And Miss Martha rises up. And the end.
The end!
That's how it ends.
That's
The end. That's the movie.
That's such a good ending.
It's so fun too, because it's like, oh, what the fuck?
How did she do that?
Yeah. The Tingler must have reanimated her somehow.
But like, how did all the windows shut and the doors locked?
Don't worry about it.
It was the wind.
It's the wind.
It's merely the wind. But yeah, that's the Tingler.
That's the Tingler.
Simple story, but a crackhead story.
I love it. It's just like, what's gayer than one man who wants to kill his wife meets another man who wants to kill his wife?
And together.
There should have been a romance. They could have worked together.
They
They could have worked it out on the remix.
They absolutely could have. But yeah, I think it's a fun romp. Go watch it, especially if you're more curious about older movies and you're wanting to educate yourself on the
It's campy,
early days of cinema.
too. This
It's
is just a
fun.
campy experience.
It's like 82 minutes.
It's
That's
short.
the other thing I loved about it, as I was like.
But that's the other thing about the movies like this is like, it's kind of trashy. It's kind of like just fun. There's nothing like deep or meaningful
No,
about it.
I didn't go into it with like
But it's
expecting my
still-
life to be changed and like wow, I never thought of things.
It's
that
still
way.
made well.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
yeah.
people knew what they were doing.
It was still a
making
quality
this movie.
piece of like film. It's just the script is
Sure.
diabolical.
Script's a little diabolical.
But like every time,
But I'm also like, you know what? It sometimes films like this, it's like when the less we know, the more lore building we can do ourselves.
oh sure,
Yeah.
You know
it's
what I
like
mean?
don't give us too many details. Just let. No, I've
Let the
actually
film speak for
I
itself.
forgot to say the other quote I had written down because I got caught up in the moment. When Vincent Price says, "I want to personally sense the power of the Tingler in a genuine fear experience."
Yes, yeah.
That's like poetry.
It kind of is beautiful, yeah.
But then you're also like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's
Yeah.
the science of fear, Stevie.
Yes. Yeah, and at the end, I did forget to say that we hear Vincent Price over the voiceover say, "Ladies and gentlemen, just a word of warning. If any of you are not convinced that you have a tingler of your own, the next time you are frightened in the dark, don't scream." I mean, here's the thing. If I was around in 1959, I would have ate this shit up.
Oh, absolutely.
I would have screamed. Okay? I have a podcast called Let's Scream, so I would have screamed.
Even if you're not scared, like, it's just fun to scream.
I just love the whimsy of this era of films and what William Castle was able to do with this gimmick shit. This is another question. Like, what kind of gimmicks would you like to see now? Do you think it could work in a modern setting?
They try to do like the motion seats. I know that's a thing. Like they kind of do like a Tingler thing now.
They like mist you with water.
Yeah, I mean, like the only thing I can think, I feel like everything would just be really obnoxious because I'm like they can do like aromas where they do like, but like everything's kind of a concern now too, and a liability issue.
I don't know. I don't think it could work.
With I think also modern audiences, we don't like gimmick. We like to know what we're getting.
Yeah.
And like people don't like the gimmick shit.
So that's another reason why this movie charmed me, because that kind of shit could really only exist in the bubble of this time period.
Yeah. Because it was also a time when they're like, we really need to get people to come to movies.
Yeah. So it was just like very earnest and fun again. It's just all about the fun.
Yeah. I don't think there is a modern, because no matter what, it's only going to be for the big movies, and they're going to make it, like, try to be cheap as possible, but, like, to get to every, like, 4,000 screens that we've got it on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it would never work.
It just wouldn't work. You know?
Which is a detriment to something like The Tingler, because if you saw The Tingler in 1959, but your theater didn't have the buzzing seat, you're just like, well, I missed out on something.
Yeah, true. It's kind of like, I think about the gimmick that they did with Clue a lot.
Sure.
With the different endings.
That's fun.
Yeah, which is fun, I think, in theory.
It didn't work for them.
What if you got the ending that wasn't flames on the side of my face? Like, I'd be pissed to know that in retrospect, right?
Yeah, they thought, people always see the movie multiple times, and
yeah. Thankfully,
Clue ended up finding its audience, but at the time, it did not make its money.
I fucking love that movie. Mm-hmm. Have you ever done Clue at Can?
No, I'm not a want to do a lot of comedies, because it's like I can't tell a joke over a joke.
That's totally fair. However, I did love your comedy during Pink Flamingos.
Oh, sure. Pink Flamingos is that I barely said.
I loved watching that film. I did not like the girl behind me kicking my seat.
I remember that.
Oh my god.
You should have just, like, leaned over to me and, like, said something. I would have said something on the mic. I'm like, excuse me, if you are currently kicking the seat in front of you, even if you don't think you are, check.
Yeah. You find a nice way to be like, call her the fuck out. Yeah. Okay.
Well, now I know for next time.
Yeah.
Vanity, the girl behind me's kicking my seat. Say something.
That's crazy. How do you not realize you're
I think it was because she kept crossing her legs. But I'm like, girl, just pick a side.
I'm 6 feet tall, and even I know not to.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, everyone should check out this movie. People should check out other William Castle films. He did a lot of movies, but definitely his like 50s to 60s like horror films are. Even like the middling ones are like they're a good like 80 minutes, and you can get through them.
I love it.
But I
like old movies.
House on Haunted Hill. One of my favorites.
We'll probably do that one at some point down the road.
And then we talked about Straight Jacket earlier. Love Straight Jacket. Joan Crawford is acting in a movie she shouldn't have to act that much in, but she is. I love that movie.
Okay, hell yeah.
She always shows up for business.
Yeah, she was.
Straight Jacket was like my teetering of like, do I pick this movie or this movie? So,
well, maybe we can have you on again soon and do Straight Jacket. That'd be really fun. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us this week, Vanity.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you for paying me as much money as you are for my appearance today.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dinner. This week made by Keaton.
Sponsored by Keaton.
Yeah.
Thank you, Keaton.
Shout out to Keaton, our social media manager. Thank you. Vanity, did you have anything you wanted to plug before we signed off?
Plug. Well, again, the Can Cinema shows I do monthly. Don't know when this is dropping, but February 15th, I'm doing March of the Penguins. If we are dropping after that, I am doing a double feature for my birthday on March 22nd. That is Funeral Parade of Roses, which is an artsy Japanese anarchy film. I won't be talking over it, but I wanted to show it for my birthday. And after that, I am showing Love on a Leash, which if you don't know what Love on a Leash is, oh boy. It's like The Room, but better. Because it was directed by a woman, and it's about a man who turns into a dog that needs to find love so he can turn back into a human.
Movie that's better than The Room. I'm shocked.
And also, I have a Letterboxd. It's just Vanity Rex. If you liked hearing my voice, I do another podcast called Gilded Films. I just listen to my episodes. You don't need to listen to all the other episodes.
Period. Well, thanks again for coming. Yeah, that's all I have to say this week. Stevie, did you want to add anything else before we signed off?
No.
No?
I think this one's fun. That's it.
Pretty much I thought it was good.
I like the Tingler.
So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week on Let's Scream. We hope you had a fun time with us at the Science Lab, learning all about the Tingler. Please remember to follow the pod, like the pod, and leave a glowing review of the pod, of course. And you can send us movie requests for future episodes. You can follow me at Parker_Will_C on Instagram.
And you can follow me at StevieNash95 on Instagram.
And we are at Let's Scream Pod on all the socials. Until next time, this has been
Let's Scream.
Bye.
Bye.